Hey, I'm Patty N. Thank you for visiting my channel. We got some catching up to do. Sorry, it's been a while since I made a video. Uh, Last week I took a little detour. I had a problem with a panic attack and was more heavily sedated than I've ever been in my life, which I don't think that can be good for your brain cells, but it takes several days of recovering from that dose. But yeah, I don't really like taking it, but I don't know what my options are, although I did hear about psychiatric service dogs. They train in California. I actually met one when we were in Colorado a couple years ago. A lady had this dog. It wasn't hers, it was her mother's, but she was babysitting it, and the dog was trained to help the mother with panic attacks, insomnia, and depression. So until then, I had not heard of that. I've heard of service animals for cardiac alert dogs, diabetes, like low blood sugar. There's seeing eye dogs. There's dogs that help the deaf, but that's the first I heard of that. So that's the next thing I'm looking into. Although they cost $60,000. So they do fundraising and cover 40,000 of it, but you have to come up with 20,000. And yeah, I got to figure out, I don't know, if I could get myself well enough and go back to work and earn that, that is what I would want to do, definitely. Okay, so anyway, I had this report from YouTube out of the blue. It was just saying these are the demographics of your subscribers, and I was really surprised because the majority are women over 60 years old, and I don't know why I thought the crowd was younger. So I don't know, in a way I thought that was cool. You're my people. And it's just such a joy to be talking about the trial and things with you guys, because you're so intelligent, and I see that whenever I'm in chat rooms and see the things people say or things that people message to me. Oh, in fact, I was going to point out, I think this might be actually a problem. The intelligence and the interest in true crime, I think it's a part of the problem of what happened on Judy's trial with people who didn't like Vince, because people weren't used to that what would you call it, like a Howard Stern shock jock kind of humor for the group of women that are thinkers and intelligent and discussing true crime, and that was kind of like a shock. But I just try to keep an open mind, and I actually came to really like Vince. So he's actually really brilliant. He's a thinker. If you can just get past the humor, he comes up with some really interesting things. And the other thing I want to tell you about him, when you're on, and I've seen this every time I've been on a show with him and Judy, which hasn't been a lot, like maybe 3 or 4 times, but he talks, and he always makes it a point to include me in the conversation. And he calls me by name. He'll be saying something to Judy, and then he'll be like, Patty, what do you think about that? And I don't know what it is, but when you hear your own name, it's like music to your ears. He doesn't just say, hey, you. He's like, Patty, what do you think? And you just feel so included, because, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes if you're the only person on a panel of all lawyers, it could feel a little bit daunting, like, but anyway, he makes you feel really included. I really like that about him. So anyway, I think if you just try to keep an open mind with him, you might be surprised. That's all. But anyway, Donna's appeal. I listened to Professor Joe talk about it, Carl Steinbeck, somebody else, I can't remember who. As you guys already know, it was horribly written. It was a catastrophe. It was an embarrassment. Okay, Carl pointed out that Fulford claimed that the FBI convinced Robert that his family was guilty. Where'd that come from? First of all, it's not true. He clearly has said the weird way his family was acting and not talking about it and saying, don't talk to the FBI, and, we're not going to talk about it. That's what made him so suspicious, that he took a step back from them, and he could see their guilt. It wasn't anything to do with the FBI convinced him. So, first of all, it's not true. Second of all, it's not in the record. It's not in the trial record. You don't just pull things out of your ass when you're writing appeals. So I think we got to watch this. When they have the actual, remember Charlie's appeal? He wasn't there, but what's his name? Ufferman? And a whole, like a panel of 3 distinguished judges. And then both sides and a few other people were in the courtroom. It was really interesting, but I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to have a field day with this appeal because it's so poorly written. It has things that aren't in the record, that aren't facts, aren't established facts. It's awful. Let's see. Anyway, Fulford is not only a lawyer, she's a former judge. I just don't get it. How can she be so terrible? It reminds me of Rashbaum, he was a joke, but Johnny Angel, he pulls things out of his back pocket. He doesn't care if they're true or not. It's such BS. It's like, have they no pride? Don't you take pride in your profession? It's embarrassingly slipshod what she wrote, and I've heard Vince go over motions maybe that were filed by, I don't know, it's in the Dabbleverse, and I don't follow along with it. I don't really get it, but I know there was something going on with filing motions, and he was saying the same thing about how poorly written it was, and pointing out all the grammar errors, misspellings, things that just are not on a professional level. So, and not all lawyers do that terrible work. Anyway, I just think it's a real disappointment to see professionals who do terrible work. Okay. So a while back, I was talking to Carl Steinbeck, and we were talking about lawyers, the subject kinda, and I told him I just was shocked to see the dishonesty in the poor working lawyers, and that, I really expect them to be in the courtroom and to behave honorably. And when I said that, Carl laughed in my face, and he said, there's no honor. It's corrupt. The courtroom's very corrupt. The lawyers, I didn't know that. I thought these were few and far between, but apparently it's, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Another thing Carl said was he still stands strong that Wendy will be arrested, but he can kind of see what the prosecution's doing now. They're going to wait till all the appeals are through. Now, it's been predicted that Charlie will never flip while his mother's alive. His mother is throwing him under the bus now. You think he's going to stay loyal to her? I don't. I think when his appeals are exhausted, I think he's going to flip like a pancake on Wendy. I think Donna might flip on her. She's already thrown her under the bus. The Adelsons are cannibalizing each other. Ugh. Okay. So I think Charlie should realize now that he doesn't owe his mother any allegiance. What a house of cards. That family just acts so loving and close on the surface, and it just all crumbles in the wind. Everyone trying to save their own hide. I know it's hard to wait so long for Wendy's arrest, but they got Donna. Now, without Donna, I don't think that murder would have happened. I think it was because of her, and I think when Dan filed the motion to restrict her to supervised visits with her grandchildren, I think that was the last straw. I think she was horrified, and there was no way she was going to let her hoity-toity friends see her having supervised visits with her own grandchildren. Well, let's see. Okay, yeah, that's something else I wanted to say. Do you remember when potential jurors were being questioned by Georgia, and she made sure that they understood that people who paid for hitman are just as guilty as the one who pulls the trigger? Well, think about that. I think they're more guilty because, first of all, the hitman, that doesn't happen if it isn't for Donna planning it. Because I don't think Charlie would have planned it without trying to please mommy. So I really think she's more guilty. And the other thing is, too, notice that they prey on poor people who need money. It's almost like they exploit them to earn this money rather than stick their own necks out. The fancy pants Adelsons aren't going to go there and pull a trigger. They're going to send the brown people to do it and try to distance themselves. So, Sigfrido and Rivera lived in a very high-cost Miami area, and they didn't have a lot of money. They're kind of poor, so they needed the money. But why did the Adelsons do it? They did it because of hatred and convenience. And protecting her social image, I think. So, anyway, on the subject of sympathy, I just wanted to say I do feel sorry for people who let life manipulate them to such an extent based on what people will think of them. Because, I don't want to say I don't care what people think of me at all, but on the other hand, I'm very comfortable with who I am and what I stand for. And if people don't want to like me, I'm fine with that. I don't like everybody I know. Why should everybody like me, So, I'm not in that high society, so maybe I'll just never get it. But anyway.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Oh, okay. It's time for some random, useless trivia. I want to show you these spices. Okay. Kinder's caramelized onion butter. This is a game changer. I love this stuff. I never thought I would like an herb or a spice so much. This stuff is really good. Okay, now, I wanted to give this stuff a try. I couldn't find it in any grocery store, and I finally found it on Amazon, but it was $17. Now, I'm thinking this is this size, a standard bottle of spice. So when I ordered it, I only meant to order it, put it in my basket on Amazon, and then click save for later. I don't know what I hit, but somehow I hit something, order immediately. And I'm like, what? I didn't want to do that. So then when it arrived and it was this big and not this big, then I was much happier with the price because this is like double this. Okay, now the last one I want to show you is this. You ready for it? Okay, I don't know if this is any good or not, but check out the artwork. I love that. Okay, we're done. Let's get back to our broadcast. Okay. Let's see, where was I? Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. So, I am going to start making my song videos. I have several of them written, but a snag I ran into is that a lot of them are in a higher key, and I don't have a strong voice to begin with. I'm not Judy, okay? So, to hit the high notes, I'm like going to croak like a frog. It's going to be so embarrassing. So, I started looking into programs you can get to lower the key, and they are out there, and if I did it on a laptop, it'd be easy. But doing it on a cell phone is tricky. I've been trying, I haven't been able to figure it out. So I'm probably just going to have to go ahead and sing and ask for your forgiveness ahead of time for how bad I'm going to sound. Okay, let's see. Now here's another thing. That has given me pause. And I can't remember what video I was listening to on YouTube. It wasn't about the Adelson case, but maybe it was one of the police videos, but they made it a point to say, don't take someone's suffering and turn it into entertainment. And that gave me pause, because I thought, these songs I make or these videos, I sure hope people don't see them as entertainment. I sure hope Ruth doesn't think that. And I've even had some gruesome stuff. Like when I put out a short to say the murder of Dan Markel, cast of characters, coming soon, I had a index card, and then I put in the sound effects of 2 gunshots, and I jiggled the card each gunshot. That's pretty gruesome. But you want to know what? It was effing gruesome. He got shot in the head. He struggled to live for 11 hours or whatever. It was gory. It was gruesome. It was disgusting. I don't feel like I should have to hide that. I think more people should be bothered by that, you know. And the other thing is, when we're in between trials or appeals or whatever, and there's not a lot going on, it's something else I can do to try to keep this subject being discussed and out there, even though I have a very small channel. But you know, whatever I can contribute is better than nothing. So I don't know, I finally came to the conclusion that I am going to make them, but I just hope people get that. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to keep it in the public eye, and I'm sure Wendy and Johnny Angel would much prefer everybody to get bullied into silence so she can just ride off with her ass-smacked butt into the sunset and be golden. But guess what? It's not going to happen, because I think she's guilty. And I think Dan needs to have full justice, not partial. And so whatever the prosecution is doing, you know, maybe it's going to take them a while, but I sure hope they're not making up their mind to not go after her, because that's just not acceptable. Did you see this week, I'm the last one to find things out, but I heard that a trial started for somebody involved in the murder of Tupac. Am I saying that right? Tupac. He's a rapper. His murder was 30 years ago. The driver of the car, he wasn't the shooter, but he was the driver, and apparently he posted an autobiography or something, and made all these claims and said he drove the car, and the whole reason for it, that Tupac and his bodyguard beat up this guy's nephew because he did something to them. So then they beat him up in a public arena, like they really humiliated them. So then that's why they killed him in return. They shot his bodyguard too, but I believe he lived. Well, anyway, oh yeah, he lived, and he's in prison, and he's refusing to testify. I don't get it, why people wouldn't help someone to achieve justice and have the truth come out. But anyway, Lowell is waiting for Wendy, so we got that to look forward to. So the other day, I was driving Diego to Gainesville, where he has some of his medical appointments. Gainesville has Shands Teaching Hospital, so some of the national programs and stuff are in Gainesville. That's where I went to a cancer center. They have a really good cancer center also. So anyway, my husband's healing from foot surgery, so I was driving. Usually he always drives, but I was driving. So it's a couple hours. So we had the radio on. You know, I don't know if I'm obsessed with his songs, but as songs were coming on, in my head, I kept hearing different lyrics. Like, okay, here's an example. This was the first one that came on. Inagata Davida. Do you guys know that song? Maybe the youngsters don't, but it goes like this. Dun 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 dun. Inagata Davida, baby. Well, in my mind, right away I heard in a courtroom in Tallahassee. Anyway, I wrote that song out, and then it was just like every song that was coming on. Paul McCartney, "Let It Be" came on, and I don't know the lyrics for that except for when he's singing "Let It Be." In my mind, I was thinking, "Rest in peace," and I was thinking this would be a song to comfort someone's sorrow. Um, so see, not all my songs have to be so grisly about the unaliving. Actually, I read you're not supposed to say that. I was reading about words that you don't say on YouTube. A lot of people will say unaliving themselves instead of the S word. You're supposed to say they took their own life. You're not supposed to say murder. You're supposed to say they took his life. I'm going to try to remember that, but I don't know. It gets to a point where, well, I want to follow the rules, but sometimes it just seems ridiculous. Like if I have to say SA and everybody knows what it stands for. And if you don't, I will give you clues. I will talk about the Me Too movement on social media. Like, anyway, okay, let's see. I was gonna tell you another song. I don't know, I'm really enjoying doing this. Oh, House of the Rising Sun came on. Okay, and this is what I'm thinking. There is a house in South Beach. They call it the Rising Hate. And it's been the ruin of Dan Markel because he met his fate. The father was a dentist, a fraud, a manipulator. The mother was controlling, a domestic coordinator. I like that part. So, Wendy, tell your children. Now, there I'm stuck because what on earth can she tell them? Not to do what I have done? I mean, you know, what on earth could she tell them? I'm sorry? Uh, I feel so bad for these kids. You know, I wanted to make this point and I keep forgetting, but many years ago, my brother-in-law, who's now retired, he was a social worker and then he got his doctorate and then he was doing private counseling. But when he first got into this field in social work, he was working for the county for the Department of Children and Families, DCF. And it was often his decision or his investigation that would lead to removing children. And he told me it's horribly sad because these parents, even though they're abusive, they're the only source of security these kids have ever known. And inevitably, 9 times out of 10, when he goes there and removes the kids, they're screaming and crying and they don't want to leave their parents. Not always. If you know the case of Jordan Turpin, that's an interesting case. If you haven't seen anything about that, look it up on YouTube. Jordan Turpin, Turpin. It was a set of parents that got into the fundamentalist, you know, have lots of children concept and didn't really take care of them. Well, that's putting it lightly. They didn't let them have toys, food. They got to take one shower a year, barely fed them. They didn't go to the doctor. They were chained, little kids, chained to their bed. It was just horrible. But anyway, these kids did get saved, so it had a good ending. I don't know, well, there was abuse that went on in foster care too. But anyway, my point is, I'm remembering what my brother-in-law told me, that 9 times out of 10, these kids cry and they don't want to be taken away from their parents. And I'm thinking about Ben and Lincoln and the trauma they have ahead of them when they start learning the truth. Well, already their grandmother is in prison, and how are they justifying that in their head? Like, she raised them because Wendy was too busy, too hot to trot, right? She's always dumping the kids off with Donna. Their formative years, she was the main parent, and now she's in prison. I don't know. I feel so bad for them because you just, you know, do kids say things to them in school like, what goes on? I don't know. How do they handle it? What do they think? I really feel once Wendy goes to prison, I think they would be best if they could live with Robert for a while, because he can understand, he can kind of understand it better. I mean, the Markells are looking at it from another aspect. He's looking at it as these were his parents, he who he dearly loved and wanted to please. He's going to understand. He's going to be able to. Um, I'm sorry, I can't. I got a mental blank. I can't think of the word, but then here's the other thing. Before you know it, they're going to both be 18, and they aren't going to need to go live with a relative or with someone. So, and it's not to say I don't want them to go spend time with the Markells. I do, desperately. I know how much I love my grandchildren and enjoy them, and that's just heartbreaking. That what Wendy did. I mean, you know, I just don't get intentional cruelty. I never will, I guess. All right, where are my notes? Yeah, I remember I was telling you one of the songs I wrote was kind of controversial, and I can't post it for a while. It's because I wrote a song about Ben, and he's not 18 yet, so that's what I was thinking, a year. Um, but anyway, yeah, you'll have to think about that. Okay, so I haven't made any police stop videos either. So I'm gonna get back to making a couple of those, and can't remember what else I wanted to say. I've been reading your comments. You guys are so kind. I really appreciate it, and thank you. I even had somebody give me a clue on who a plastic surgeon I can go to at USF, that's in Tampa. Somebody who has a lot of experience with doing this nasal cartilage surgery I need to have done. And man, I appreciated that. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't write down your name, but that's what I mean about this community of intelligent women that our interest in true crime brought us together, and it's just a very cool community. I'm enjoying it a lot. And also, I really, for some reason, starting really with my cancer treatment, I've kind of become a homebody. Like for a while, I just did it out of pure exhaustion and recovery. It took me like a good couple of years after that to bounce back, and now I'm just, I don't know, I'm just a homebody. I don't go out a lot, so it's like a it's a substitute way to have a group of friends. So, in fact, if I get to make a video about aging, I was thinking I'm going to make this video to pass on some of my wise woman wisdom to the youngsters out there. And I'm like, hey, you guys are roughly my age, a lot of you, so we could just share tips with each other, support each other. I did find do you guys know about Lavina Zook? She's a former Amish girl who ran away from the Amish community, and she has a cooking channel. And if you haven't seen it, you probably have, because I heard Patty Wilson talk about her once, so she's very well known. I have her cookbook, but I one of her, something about her popped up, and so I went to watch it. But it was another person who has a couple zillion subscribers. She writes about cults and Amish, Al Qaeda, Muslim. I hate to say Muslim because not all Muslims. I don't want to cast them all in one group, but I mean the type of Muslims you hear about that marry an American and then at some point get their wife to go over there to visit family and then decide to stay, and then this really nice husband becomes a different person. Look for the movie with Sally Fields. That explained it really well. But anyway, I've been watching this what's her name? It starts with an S. I really like her. She's very supportive of women's issues and mental health and healing, and yeah, it's a really good channel, but I can only watch so much of it, and then it gets me overall. It gets me depressed about the state of women still being so under men's thumbs, and sometimes it just seems like it's open season on women to be essayed and that whole subject, and it's not like I'm burning my bra and want to be some roaring feminist, and I just want to be equal. I just think we should be equal, not and that was the whole thing with losing the in the Constitution, reversing Roe versus Wade. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to say I'm completely comfortable with the choice of abortion, but I'm very comfortable with the issue of women should be able to choose for themselves and not be treated like you're inferior. So that's the whole thing for me. Not to say we're better than black men, but white women were free when black men were slaves, right? So that's the weirdness to me, that then black men got the right to vote before white women. I know that's going to sound bad. Please believe me, I don't mean that we're better than them. Of course, we should have got. No, I just mean that's how badly we're thought of. That's how much they want to keep us down. Well, anyway, yeah, I'm getting off on a tangent. That's because I don't know. I wrote my notes, but I didn't write any way to end this. So, okay, so another thing I have in mind for the future, I've been making a list of all the weird things I've ever done in my life. And so I'm thinking, that game, 3 Truths and a Lie? I'm thinking eventually we're going to play, like, I don't know, 25 truths and a lie. And then you guys can guess which one is the lie. And then whoever wins, I was thinking I could send you my Adelson collection of jewelry, which I don't have it done yet, but I keep saying I'm going to work on it, and then I never do. But I am going to finish it up. I promised Leslie I was going to send her the Adelson collection. Anyway, so, and yeah, you guys know I got some pretty wild things I can say, like, if you saw my video about the robberies at my dad's business, I've had somebody hold a gun on me. That's a pretty wild thing to do. So, things like that, there might be clues in my old videos if you've been, watching them. And then, yeah, I thought I would do that. I thought that might be a fun thing to do. All right, I am going to close now and work on my song videos. I'll post those next, and I think I want to make a video about pit maneuvers and police stops. And I think New Crime Wifey had given me a tip about that. Was it about the Arkansas State Troopers? But anyway, I'm gonna have to go back and revisit that comment, because sometimes I forget some of what I read. Oh, yeah, I'm coming to you from my couch, because when I made my video over there in my rocker, recliner, swivel chair, I had people tell them it made them seasick to watch me because I was rocking. The whole time. It's too hard to not rock anyway, but when I'm in that chair, I definitely can't do it. So that's why I'm here on the couch. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. I hope you're all doing great. Justice for Dan.